Hello students, today's topic of discussion will be OpenGL quadratic surface and cubic surface functions. Basically in this section we will be mainly discussing about the different functions which are available. When I say functions, it is the OpenGL functions that I am speaking of here, which are available for us for the generation of the quadratic surface and the cubic surfaces. To begin with, a number of three-dimensional quadratic surface objects can be displayed using functions that are included in the OpenGL utility toolkit, which we are familiar with as GLUT, and in the OpenGL utility, which we commonly refer to as the GLU. With the GLUT functions, we can display a sphere, a cone, a torus, or the teapot. With the GLU functions, we can display a sphere, cylinder, tapered cylinder, cone, flat circular ring, or a hollow disk, and a section of circular rings, or what we commonly refer to as the disks. First, let us begin with the quadratic surface functions, that is the GLUT quadratic surface functions. In that, first let us look at the sphere function. When we speak about the sphere, there are two functions available. One for the generation of a solid sphere, second for the generation of a wire sphere. If I want to generate a wired sphere, then I make use of the function GLUT wire sphere with the arguments as r, n longitude and n latitude. I'll tell you what exactly are these arguments, but even before that, the other function that is available for us is the GLUT solid sphere. If I want a wired sphere, then I make use of wire here. Otherwise, I make use of a solid. You can look at the arguments, which are pretty much common in both the functions. That means the arguments remain the same, only the rendering or the representation differs whether I want it as a wired representation or a solid representation. Here I have taken an example with some values, wherein I have taken the r value as 15, longitude value as 10, and the latitude as 70. You can see in both the functions I have taken the same arguments, only the function names are different. You can look at the output here. One is in the form of a wire and the other one is a solid representation. So this is what I meant initially. It renders the same thing but in a different form. Now let us move further in order to look at what this r and n longitude and latitude are. R is the sphere radius, which is double precision point. That is, this r for us is the radius of the sphere. We know that when we speak about a circle, sphere, it all is referred by its radius. Hence here r stands for the radius, and please note, usually it is taken as a double precision. That means even if you enter an integer here, for the function, it is still a double precision value. The n longitude and latitude numbers, it represents the numbers of longitude and latitude lines used to approximate the sphere. That means vertically and horizontally, how many number of lines is required is determined by this longitude and latitude. So that way you have three arguments here: radius, the longitude and the latitude. Next comes the cone function for us, which is pretty similar to our sphere function, except that the arguments are different. Again here it can be represented as a wired cone or a solid cone. The arguments are the r base, height, longitude and the latitude, where r base is the radius of the cone base. If you take the cone, basically you have the base and then That is, if I take here a circle kind of a representation followed by a cone on it. But for our representation, only the bottom view is available when I say a cone. So here you can see the bottom view, which is rendered with the base initially. And that base is nothing but the representation which is generated by making use of the radius. So here I say R base is the radius of the cone base, which is again a double precession. Next comes the height, which is the height of the cone and is represented as the double precession for us. Then we have the longitude and the latitude, where they are assigned integer values that specify the number of orthogonal surface lines for the quadrilateral mesh approximation. I repeat, the longitude and latitude are assigned integer values. Note, they are integer values that specify the number of orthogonal surface lines for the quadrilateral mesh approximation. Mainly here I need the base and the height. So if I have to be very appropriate for you, I'll say this is my base of the cone and this represents the height of the cone. So that is what we refer by the base and the height. So here is the radius for us. Based on that, the cone is, the surface of the cone is generated for us. So what we see here in the output part is the surface of the solid cone. If you can see, I've taken the function solid cone with the radius as 5, height as 2, and the longitude and latitude as 70 and 10. So here is the base of the cone which is visible for us. Next comes the torus. Again, when we speak about torus, it is the wired representation or the solid representation. The arguments for this function are R cross section, R axial, N concentrics, and the N radial slices. What exactly do they represent? The R cross section is the radius about the coplanar Z axis. R axial is the distance of the inner center circle from the Z axis. So what is the distance of this inner circle from the Z axis? N concentrics specifies the number of concentric circles to be used on the torus surface. That means how many circles have to be used on the torus surface. And then comes the N radial slices, which specifies the number of radial slices through the torus face. So first one is the radius about the coplanar z-axis, that is the radius here from the center, which specifies about the coplanar z-axis. That means here the radius is with reference to the z-axis for us. Then we have the axial, which is the distance of the circle center from the z-axis. Next, that is from the center, how much of distance you want, that hole which is generated, what should be the distance from the center to the first inner circle. N concentric specifies the number of concentric circles to be used on the torus surface, and similarly radial slices specifies the number of slices through the torus surface. So here is an example which I have taken and the output which is visible for you. The next function that we have is the teapot, which again can be represented as a wired teapot or a solid teapot. Here you can see the teapot surface, which basically is generated using the OpenGL Bezier curve functions. If you recall our discussion, we have discussed it during the Bezier curves topic as well as in our lab program. And if you look at the function here, it has only one argument, which is the size. Basically, this parameter size sets the double precision floating point value for the maximum radius of the teapot bowl. That means here at the base, you can see from here it takes the radius and says what should be the size of the teapot bowl for us. The teapot is centered on the world coordinate origin with its vertical axis along the y-axis. Yes, which is basically, this teapot for the generation, it refers to the world coordinates. What is world coordinates for us? On a window where you have that x maximum, x minimum, y maximum and y minimum, that is your world coordinate for you. And here is an example taken, which is Glatt solid teapot of 10. That means it generates a teapot which is solid, not wired, whose size is equal to 10, which you can see on the screen here. Moving further, let us look at what exactly is the GLU. So far we have seen about the Glatt function. Now let us move and see what is that GLU quadratic surface function does. Basically, I have taken a set of instruction, or let me call it as a piece of code snippet, which is used to generate a quadratic surface using the GLU function. What have I done here? First, I assign a name to the quadratic. Next, I activate the GLU quadratic renderer, and then in the third step, I designate value for the surface parameters. I repeat, first I assign a name to the quadratic. I have assigned a name here. Second, I activate the GLU quadratic renderer, and in the third step, I designate the values for the surface parameter. Yes, where here sphere 1 is the name of the object, which is my first step, where I said that I assign a name to the quadratic. So this is the name for us, sphere 1. Next, the quadratic renderer is activated using the GLU new quadratic function, and then the display mode GLU line is selected for sphere 1 with the quadratic draw style command. Next, the parameter R is assigned a double precision value for the sphere radius. If you remember, sphere takes in 3 arguments: the radius, longitude and the latitude, and R here represents the radius of the sphere. And what is the name of our sphere? It is sphere 1. And then here we have the longitude and the latitude, which represents the number of lines across the longitude and latitude. Yes. Here we have made use of something called as GLU line under quadratic draw style. The different other 3 display modes that are available for our rendering are the GLU point, the GLU slither and the GLU fill. First, GLU point basically generates a quadratic surface as a point plot. I repeat, GLU point generates a quadratic surface as a point plot. Next, GLU silhouette generates a quadratic surface that will not contain shear edges between 2 coplanar polygon facets. That means if I have 2 polygons, then the edges will not be shared between the polygons. Next, I have the GLU fill, wherein the quadratic surface is displayed as patches of filled area. I repeat, with GLU fill, the quadratic, that is with this function or with this argument, the quadratic surface is displayed as patches of filled area. To produce a view of a cone, cylinder or tapered cylinder, we replace the GLU sphere function with here you can see GLU cylinder. That means if I want a cylinder or a tapered cylinder, we replace the GLU sphere with GLU cylinder. Yes, so this GLU cylinder takes in the arguments as quadratic name, the R base, R top, height, longitude and the latitude. What are the arguments for us? The base of the object is the XY plane and the axis is the Z axis. I repeat, the base of this object is in the XY plane and the axis is the Z axis. The R base for us here, the R base here is the radius at base and R top is radius at the top. If you recall the cylinder, it has a bottom and it has a top. So R base is the radius at the bottom or the base and R top is the radius at the top. If R top is equal to 0, that is if this R top is equal to 0.0, we get a cone. I repeat, if this R top is equal to 0, that means I don't have, for example, if I set a value to R is equal to 1, then probably I would have the center here. From here, I would have a distance of 1, which would generate the top base for us. But if it is set to 0, it just remains as a single point. So that way, a cone is generated for us. If R top is equal to R base, we obtain a cylinder. Cylinder is something like this. So here, this is how a cylinder looks like to us. So this should be equal for us to say that it's a cylinder. So we will say if R base is equal to R top, then a cylinder is generated for us. Next, we have discussed quadratic name. I will not go because it is just the name that you are giving to the cylinder, cone, whatever you are generating. Next, we have the base and the top, where we have said that it is the radius of the bottom surface and the top surface. Next comes the height for us. Height is the height of the object. Height is this distance. What should be the height of the object? Next is the n longitude and n latitude. That is the values which will specify the number of latitude and longitude lines. Next, I have the function GLU disk. So please remember, this GLU cylinder can be used for generation of a cylinder, a tapered cylinder or a cone. When do we have a cylinder? If R base is equal to R top, then we have a cylinder. If R top is equal to 0, then we have a cone. If R top is equal to 0, then we have a cone. Moving further, the next function that we discuss is GLU disk. A flat circular ring or solid disk is displayed in the XY plane and centered on the world coordinate origin, making use of this GLU disk. I repeat, a flat circular ring or a solid disk is displayed on the world coordinate origin, making use of this function GLU disk. Basically here for the arguments, I'll say we set double precision values for an inner radius and the outer radius with parameters R inner and R outer. If it's a disk, take your CD disk itself, wherein you have the hole in the center and comes after the hole, it is the inner circle and the outer ring is the outer circle. For example, something like this. So this becomes my inner circle and this becomes my outer circle. Yes. So that is represented by R inner and R outer, which is again a double precision value. If R inner is equal to 0, that is, if this R inner is equal to 0, it means that the disk is solid. Otherwise, it is displayed with a concentric hole in the center of the disk. That means if this value is, that is R inner is equal to 0, then I will not have this. It is a solid disk for us. Single circle kind of a representation. If I set a value to this R inner, then it becomes, or it takes in this representation for us. Yes, the disk surface basically is divided into a set of facets with integer parameters n radii and n rings. I repeat, this making use of this n radii and n rings, the disk surface is divided into a set of facets with integer parameters. That means here you have circles here like this until that entire set of outer ring is, or until it reaches that outer ring. Yes. Next, moving further, I have the next function, which is the partial disk. In order to specify a section of a circular ring, we make use of this partial disk. I repeat, the partial disk is used to specify a section of a circular ring. Here, the arguments start angel and sweep angel. Why am I directly jumping here? Because all of these are something which we have seen in our previous function. The name, the inner circle, outer circle, n radii and n ring. So these are two additional parameters or arguments into this partial disk. So those, first let me start with start angel, which designates an angular position in degrees in the xy plane measured clockwise from the positive y-axis. I repeat, it designates an angular position in degrees. Parameter sweep angel denotes an angular distance in degrees from the start angel position. That is, here start angel designates the position in degrees with reference to the y-axis in the clockwise direction. On the other hand, that means if you have this on this, let's say x-axis, and this is my z-axis, taking this as the reference, it says how much, I mean at what portion dependent on the degree should be considered, because here this considers only the partial disk, not the complete disk. Next, the sweep angle designates an angular distance in degrees from the start angle. That means, see, you have this disk, let's say this is my y-axis. At some point it says I need this disk representation from this position. Initially it starts with start angel, so that gives my initial position. But what portion of the disk I want, let's say this entire portion of the disk I want, so that is designated or generated by this sweep angle. Yes. Next, moving further, I have the function delete quadratic. As the name itself says, it is for the deletion purpose. Why do we need to delete it? Allotted memory for any GLU quadratic surface needs to be reclaimed. In order to reclaim, we need to eliminate the surface. So in order to eliminate that surface and reclaim the allocated memory, we make use of the GLU delete quadratic function. Next, the next function we have is the GLU quadratic orientation. Basically, when we speak about objects, we usually speak about the front and the back directions. In order to do so, we can make use of the GLU quadratic orientation. I repeat, we can define the front and the back directions of any quadratic surface with the following orientation function. Here, it takes in the quadratic name, the other argument as normal vector direction, where this is assigned with either GLU outside, that means this takes GLU underscore outside, or GLU underscore inside. So these are the two arguments that can be passed into this normal vector direction. Yes, so GLU outside represents the front face, inside represents the back face for us. Another option in the generation of surface normal vector is the quadratic normals for us, where a symbolic constant general mode indicates how surface normal vectors should be generated. The default value for this is GLU underscore none. So this tells us how the surface should be represented. The different values that can be passed in are, here I'll write it just here, GLU flat, and the other one is GLU underscore smooth. So these are the two values that can be passed in. By default, it is GLU none. If you give the argument as GLU flat, a flat surface shading, that is, wherein it takes in a constant color value for each surface, is generated. On the other hand, when other lighting and shading conditions are to be applied, we use the constant GL smooth, which generates a normal vector for each surface vector position. That means if you want to specify some lighting and shading conditions into the quadratic surface object, then you make use of GL smooth. Otherwise, if you are comfortable making use of one shade and a flat representation, make use of GLU flat. If you do not want, you just want a normal object, then set this as GLU none. Yes, the last function here we have is the GLU quadratic callback. That is, if at all we want to designate a function that is to be invoked if an error occurs during the generation of a quadratic surface, then we make use of quadratic callback. So this here, you can see here, GLU error and function. So this tells us what is the error and in which function the error is for us. Yes. Moving further, we have the OpenGL approximation spline functions. So far, we have discussed about the different functions for the representation of the surface objects. Now let us move on and understand the approximation spline function. Let us look at the different spline functions one after the other. The very first one we have taken is the GL map. Basically, here if you can see, we specify parameters and activate the routines for Bezier curve display with the OpenGL function, that is this, which we have represented as the GL map. But it is not sufficient if I directly use this. I will also have to enable this. After enabling, let's say I make use of this GL map function. Further, when I finish my job, I will also have to disable this. So please remember, whenever I'm making use of the routines for the Bezier curve display, in such a case, in order to make use of this GL map function, first I'll have to enable it, then make use of this GL map. Once my task is done, I will have to deactivate the routine by using GL disable. Now, here I have put a star. What is that? It indicates that a suffix of F or D, here GL map 1, F or D is used to indicate either. That means if I use F, it becomes a floating point value, or D, which indicates a double precision for the data values n. In here, in this functions, the minimum and maximum values for the curve parameters u are specified in umin and umax. Although these values for a Bezier curve are typically set to 0 and 1.0 respectively. So this umin and umax represent the minimum and the maximum values for a Bezier curve. The Bezier control points are listed in an array control points. Number of elements in this array is given as a positive integer using the parameter endpoints. So here umin and umax represents the minimum and maximum value of the curve parameter. Control point is the Bezier control points which are listed in this array, and n represents the total number of points that we make use of, and it's a positive integer. Next, I have this stride here. What exactly is this stride? It is assigned an integer offset that indicates the number of data values between the beginning of one coordinate position in an control point and the beginning of the next control point. Let me not confuse you. Let's say I have 4 control points, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Let us say my curve is something like this. So this is my first control point and this is my second control point. So here I need this line from first control point to the second control point. So this stride represents the number of data values between the first control point and the second control point. Similarly, from this to this, that is to the next point, and next from here to here. So that is represented by your stride. Yes. So remember, whenever I'm generating a Bezier curve, I make use of this GL map, and the arguments are minimum, maximum, stride, endpoints, and the control points. If you remember, this is what we have used in our program of Bezier function also. That is wherein we generated a flag making use of the Bezier function. If you just go back and refer there, you will see this with the same set of arguments. But in order to use this, first we will have to enable this. After using this, we will have to disable it also. Next, a coordinate position along the curve path is calculated with GL eval coordinate. That is, GL eval coord is used to calculate the coordinate position along the curve path, where uval is assigned some value in the interval from umin to umax. What does this generate? Say it is the minimum and maximum value for the curve parameter, and what is the distance between each point is generated by this eval coordinate. Yes. And in order to do so, the function calculates the coordinate position using equation with the parameter value. It would be written as u is equal to u value minus u minimum by u max minus the u minimum. So this generates the value of u for us, and this particularly maps to the u value to the interval from 0 to 1.0. I repeat, which maps the u value to the interval from 0 to 1.0. That means this value can be from 0 to 1.0 for you. Next, you have the values assigned here for u min and u max. Substitute, you will get the value of u. Next, so here this is for the generation of the curve, enabling and disabling, and here it's for the coordinate position along the curve path. A spline curve is generated with evenly spaced parameter values, and OpenGL provides the following functions which can be used to provide a set of uniformly spaced parameter values. I repeat, a spline curve is generated with evenly spaced parameter values. That means if I draw this, it is evenly spaced parameter values for us. In order to do so, we have two functions here. One is the GL map grid and the other one is GL evaluate mesh, wherein the suffix code for here is either F or D for GL map grid. I'll not go back to what F or D is, which we all know is nothing but the float and the double. The parameter n specifies the integer value of equal subdivisions over the range from u1 to u2. I repeat, the parameter n specifies the integer number of equal subdivisions over the range from u1 to u2. Parameter n1 and n2 specifies the integer range corresponding to u1 and u2. Parameter mode is assigned either GL point or GL line. This is either GL point or GL line, depending on whether we want to display the curve using discrete points, that is a dotted curve, or using the line segment. That means when you display, let's say you're displaying something like this, do you want it in the solid form or do you want something like this, which is in the dotted representation? So if at all you want it in the dotted representation, then make use of GL points. Otherwise, if you want it in the solid representation, then make use of GL line. Yes. In other words, with the mode GL line is equal, mode is equal to GL line, I would say you will get a solid line. Next, let us move to the OpenGL Bezier spline surface functions. What have we discussed? We have discussed the curve functions. Now let us look at the spline surface function. Activation and parameter specification. For the OpenGL, Bezier surface routines are accomplished with, you can see, enable and disable. Here I repeat, the activation and parameter specification for the spline surface functions are accomplished with enable and disable. That means if I have to make use of this function, then I will have to enable. After making use of it, I will have to equivalently disable it. Yes. So looking at it, we have the GL map for the generation of spline surface. The suffix code of F or D is used with map2 to indicate either floating point or double value for the data. Next, for a surface, we specify the minimum and maximum values for both the parameter u and the parameter v. I repeat, for the surface, we specify the minimum and maximum values for both u, that is here, and v. So we have u minimum, u maximum, v minimum and v maximum. If the control points are to be specified using 4-dimensional homogeneous coordinates, we use the symbolic constant. Here instead of 3, I put it as 4. I repeat, if I want a 4-dimensional homogeneous coordinate, then I represent it as 4 instead of 3. Yes, so this generates the surface for us. Basically, if you look at, pretty much similar to what we have understood, but instead of having only the u value, I have the v values also here. For the coordinate position on the Bezier surface can be calculated using the eval coordinate or the eval coordinate v. Something which we have used here, eval coordinate. It was just for the u value, but if I use this, I have to go with u value as well as the v value, or you can use one more function wherein you have uv array, which together generates the uv values for us. Now, what exactly is this, or how exactly is this u value and v value generated for us? To get that u value, I'll say u is equal to u value minus u minimum by u maximum minus u minimum. So this generates the u for us. Similarly, for the generation of v, I take it as v value minus v minimum by v maximum minus the v minimum. So this generates the u and v. These values, that is u minimum, u maximum, v minimum, v maximum, you get it from here. How do you generate this u value? U value and v value are the values which range from 0 to 1.0. Yes. Moving further, let us take a look at GLU B-spline curve functions. Although the GLU B-spline routines are referred to as the NURBS function, they can be used to generate B-splines that are neither non-uniformal nor rational. I repeat, though the GLU spline routines are referred to as the NURBS function, they can be used to generate B-splines that are neither non-uniformal nor rational. The following statements illustrate, that is, these set of statements illustrate the basic sequence of calls for displaying a B-spline curve. You can see, first we have given a name, then we have here, we have taken the name, then object name, followed by the renderer, then how the curve should be, that is with the value of this, and finally end it. And here you have a begin which tells it is the beginning of the curve, and here we have the end which says that is the ending of the curve. Pretty much similar to what we saw in the previous section of the surfaces. Next, we eliminate a defined B-spline with delete NURBS renderer. A B-spline curve is divided automatically into number of sections and displayed as a polyline by the GLU routines. However, a variety of B-spline rendering options can also be selected with repeated calls to the following GLU function, that is the NURBS property. I repeat, the curve is automatically divided into number of sections and displayed as a polyline. However, a variety of B-spline rendering options can also be selected with the repeated calls to this function. Next, we have the B-spline surface functions. In order to determine the current value of a B-spline property, we use the following query function, that is the GLU get NURBS property. I repeat, to determine the current value of a B-spline property, we use the following query function. It's a query function, and that is this, that is the get NURBS property. As an example of property setting, the following statements specify a wired frame triangularly displayed for a surface. So I'll say here are the two ways in which you can generate a surface, that is the B-spline surface. One is with the usage of, I'll say, a wired one. The other one is the solid one for us. Next, here, after doing, that is after generating the surface, we query it to determine the value. When the property of GLU autoload matrix is set to the value GL false, we invoke the load sampling matrix. I repeat, when the property GLU underscore auto underscore load underscore matrix is set to GL underscore false, then we invoke the sampling matrix. Various events associated with the spline objects are processed using the callback function. Finally, the data values for the callback functions are supplied by using the function NURBS callback data. This is only for your reference, which is very rarely used, but I still want you to know these are some of the functions which is available for the creation of the spline surfaces. I repeat, starting from, I'll say, if I want to set a spline surface, I make use of the NURBS property, one for the generation of this solid surface, the other one for the generation of the wired surface. Then to determine the current value, I make use of the query function get NURBS property. Then if at all my GLU autoload matrix is set to GL false, then I use this load sampling matrix. Various events associated with the spline objects can be processed making use of the callback function. Finally, the data values for the callback function are supplied by this callback data function. Lastly, we have the surface trimming function. A set of one or more dimensional trimming curves is specified for a B-spline surface with the following statements. Here are the statements which are represented. I repeat, one or two dimensional trimming curves is specified for a B-spline surface using the following statements: begin, end, and the PWL curve. The parameter surface name is the name of the B-spline surface that is to be trimmed. A set of float point coordinates for the trimming curve is specified in the array parameter curve points, which contains n points coordinate position. Here, whichever surface you are trimming, here this represents the total number of control points. All the control points are present in this array, and the total number of the control points is present in this endpoints. An integer offset between successive coordinate position is given by the parameter stride. Yes, so here if at all you're trimming a surface, then give the surface which you are trimming, how many control points, sorry, all the control points, the total control points, and the interval between, or total number of control points from one control point to the, sorry, total number of points from one control point to the other control point is specified using the stride. Here, if you look at, I have summarized the different functions for you, wherein in here I've taken the summary of OpenGL Bezier function, wherein we have discussed the GL map, eval coordinate, map grid, eval mesh, map 2, eval coordinate, map grid 2, eval mesh. You can see what are the purposes of each of this, wherein in the description section, it tells what exactly is the function associated with each and every function that we have taken. In the next slide, I've taken the summary of the OpenGL spline functions. That is your new NURB renderer, begin curve, end curve, NURBS curve, delete NURB renderer, property, etc. Yes. And in the last of it, I have continued with the spline functions, wherein again it speaks about some of these which we discussed, like the callback data, trim, etc. and all those. So just have a look at the summary, which would be easy for you to understand. But on the other hand, though you would not be using specially the B-spline functions, these are essential, which we make use very commonly, but these are something which we make use very rarely, not on the regular basis. But however, it's good to know these are some of the Bezier spline functions that are available for different purposes for us. I think with this, we complete our module 5. Thank you for learning.